The Justice Department and Civil Rights Division of the FBI Field Office in Akron, Ohio, and the local U.S. Attorney's Office are closely monitoring and reviewing what happened. If the evidence reveals potential violations of federal criminal statutes, the Justice Department will take the appropriate action.
Turning now to that fatal police shooting out of Akron, Ohio. 25-year-old Jalen Walker was shot more than 60 times by police while fleeing a traffic stop. If you're not clear with the law, that's not a death penalty crime. His sister speaking out this morning for the first time since that fatal incident.
I really haven't been watching a lot of television or publications on things because I don't want to see him in that light. I'm just really sad because, like I said, out of many black men who have been killed and many families who experience this, even as a sister, you know, it's just, excuse me, it's really hard.
CNN reporting today that Walker was handcuffed when his body arrived at the medical examiner's office, according to documents they reviewed. That, along with the 13 body cam videos released this weekend, only leads to more questions. And this is only the latest in a string of problematic police incidents out of Ohio. Remember in 2012, when 13 officers unleashed 137 shots onto 2 unarmed suspects, killing them. Only one officer was charged with manslaughter, and he was acquitted. 2 years after that, 12-year-old Tamir Rice was fatally shot by a Cleveland officer who faced no criminal charges, who drove up to the kid and gave him 0.03 seconds to respond. A DOJ probe later finding the Cleveland police used a pattern of excessive force. And for all the talk about the danger facing police or the facts of a given incident, the data shows race drives different outcomes. Police use more force on black people, who are 3 times as likely to be killed by police. And data shows police frequently escalate interactions with black people over nonviolent infractions. Compare this to police peacefully apprehending Dylan Roof after he murdered 9 people, including a dear friend of mine, in a hate crime in South Carolina. Here you see officers calmly handcuffing him, leading him into the back of a car, and there were reports that they bought him some Burger King. And we showed you yesterday the stark contrast in how police treated the 22-year-old suspect in the Highland Park mass shooting over the weekend that killed 7. That suspect was arrested without incident, while Jalen Walker was fatally shot more than 60 times, more times than the Parkland shooter shot. Joining me now is social justice activist and MSNBC analyst Brittany Packnett-Cunningham. Brittany, I hate that usually we're talking on the air because some other black person has been murdered by the state. And so I don't want to just talk about that. What I want to address today is the fecklessness and the refusal on the part of local and national public officials to implement any sort of policies that hold cops accountable. Just off the top, with your organization, your work, what are 2 things right now that the state government or the federal government could do right now to lessen the likelihood of the next state-sponsored murder of a black person in America?
I'll give you 2 things right now. One, most certainly, is to change qualified immunity in this country. The fact that having a badge and a gun in my community gives you carte blanche to kill is a problem in a so-called democracy. The other thing, the bigger thing, the more important thing, in my opinion, is to divert all of these millions of dollars that continue to go to police departments that do not prove themselves responsible, fair, kind, or just, and divert that to the things that actually keep us safe. Like you said, Jason, I am often on TV because something bad has happened. Often something bad has happened to Black people. I have a little godson who gets excited when he sees me on TV, and I hate to tell him that it's because somebody was probably shot by police. We had a chant in Ferguson. We said, who do you protect? Who do you serve? And the truth is nobody, especially not us. And this is a point I think people don't get. The police officers, police unions for a long time have been litigating a simple fact. The point that they actually don't have to jump in harm's way to protect the citizenry. That's actually not their responsibility. So this idea of serve and protect is a myth. So if they're not here to serve and protect us, as Uvalde showed us, then what are they here to do? Well, the reason is right in the name. It's law enforcement. When the law of the land was that enslaved people couldn't run from their enslavers, then police officers happily enforced that law. When the law of the land is that people can be arrested and charged for exercising our bodily autonomy and getting an abortion, then they will perform that very task. And when the law of the land is supported, when the folks in power are supported by the continual terrorizing of Black and brown people, then they will perform that task. The truth of the matter is we have to get through our heads. This is a fully systemic problem. What is rotten fundamentally cannot be reformed. The only way to handle that is to take the money away and put it in the things that really save us.
And as I've said consistently, we have to abolish policing as we know it. You cannot reform something that is rotten to its core. And Brittany, one other thing I want to add to this, because I think you're making a good point about how systematic this is. We have this story out of Kentucky where a white guy who was being, the police were going to his house for a domestic violence charge. He shoots 3 cops. He kills 3 cops. They managed to bring him in, right? Parkland shooter kills multiple people. They're white, managed to be brought in safely. And yet, we see now in a place like Uvalde where witnesses and people who saved their own children from that school are being harassed and terrorized by the police who are frightened that they might actually come forward and talk a little bit about police incompetence. What do we also have to identify in our public discourse about how police operate? Because I think some of the issues that we're having here is we trust police too much. We've got too many instances of them lying. We don't even know until we have body cameras what actually happened in Akron, because we know that even with body cameras, we got nothing but lies out of Uvalde.
You know what I find really interesting? Today, after the Highland Park shooting, we've got a child who went to a 4th of July parade, and as I saw someone tweet, left an orphan. And the person who killed his parents, as you've already said, Jason, was taken alive and without incident. And so today, people are tripping over themselves to find a reason, to find the motivation why this person could take a gun in this country and go into a crowd and shoot people. But when we, as Black folks, Indigenous folks, brown folks, disabled folks, poor folks, when we give you hundreds of years of evidence as to the motivation and the reasons why police continue to kill us, we're called anarchists, and we're told that we are actually the hate groups. The police are on track this year to kill more people than in recent years past. And even though there is no correlation between crime and police killings, that is the myth that you will continue to hear. So to your question, Jason, we have to actually start by questioning the police. We have to stop media outlets that take police reporting carte blanche and offer it up as a report and as an article without criticism and without question. We have to make sure that we use the words that are actually truthful, that this is not about police incompetence, that this is actually about the system of policing. It's not broken. It's operating precisely as it was designed. Jason, this is not the country I was promised. It is most certainly not the country that I was owed or that Jalen was owed, and most certainly not the country that we deserve moving forward.
And it ain't the country that I should be paying my taxes to if this is the results I'm going to get. Brittany Packnett Cunningham, thank you so very much for your time and joining us on The Beat tonight.